Now, an emergency Cobra meeting has been held with ministers discussing what to do about the latest strikes. They're talking about using the military and civil service to cover the staff shortages in the border force. Just one area that he's covering, isn't it? The government have also said the armed forces will be drafted in to help the NHS when ambulance staff go on strike next week. Whispers of a firefighter strike as well. Could the army be involved there? So how will the army react to being called in ahead of Christmas, or indeed over Christmas? I'm joined now by Philip Ingram MBE, who's a former senior military intelligence officer. Great to have you on the show. How will the army react to being drafted in to cover the jobs of people who are on better pay than them and are legally allowed to strike and probably have better working conditions as well?
Well, I was talking to the wife of a Lance Corporal in the Army only earlier, and she summed it up quite well in saying that, you know, within the military, better pay, better staffing levels, better working conditions are just a pipe dream of every service person everywhere. It's not the sort of thing that the military get. They get thrown in to deal with and pick up the detritus that's left by people who are paid better than them and are asking for better pay deals than them. And therefore it is, well, you know, yet another holiday been given up at a time when defence is very busy indeed.
Well, can you enlighten me a little bit? I'm sorry if I'm putting you on the spot here, but I mean, it is relevant. The idea of army pay and in terms of pay rises as well, because I do cop it a lot from the old pro-nursing brigade. And yes, I'm very sorry to anyone who thinks that nurses should just be, you know, paid millions of pounds a year and held up as angels and clapped every single evening. They do great work. It's not about that. But they have had 2 pay rises in 2 years, and they amount to a real terms pay cut, as everyone keeps telling me. But, you know, no one predicted inflation and all of this stuff. What's the army pay rise has been like?
Army pay rise has been well below inflation. This year they got 3.75% for those on lower pay rates. Higher pay rates got 3.5%. Wow. A young soldier on training is on just over £16,000 a year. That's after the pay rise. And whenever they come out fully trained, they're on £21,425 per year. That's after the pay rise. That is significantly less than any of the other emergency service workers. Yeah. And I don't deny that they need more money, but it's putting it into context, and it's a bit of a kick in the guts where you've got people getting smaller pay rises imposed on them who can't represent, they've got no representation outside whatsoever, are having to fill these jobs over a holiday period.
No, indeed. And I don't just want to focus on the nurses. I mean, we have also just had members of the RMT, although only apparently 55% of them are actually voting to turn down what I think a lot of people regard as a relatively decent pay offer, not the decent pay offer, but job security for the next 3 years as well. I don't know about you, but I certainly would love job security for the next 3 years, although it's not going to happen. But there we go. When it comes to things like border force as well, now, forgive me, I don't want to, again, be slamming anyone who's, does a job, OK? But is it not slightly leave a bad taste in the mouth that people who essentially check passports for a living, or in the case of what's been going on in the Channel actively don't, can go on strike and ruin people's Christmases, but people who will actually fight and die for this country, who are on maybe in some cases less than half the amount of money they're on, have to spend Christmas at Heathrow?
Well, border force, they don't just check passports. They are the front line of the security of people coming in, of people coming into the country. So they've got an awful lot more to do. And I wouldn't knock their professionalism and all the rest of it. But it's what we're seeing at the moment is a perfect storm. And if we look at what's going on across Europe, we listen to the unions, we listen to certain politicians, and they seem to think that everything is down to the government, when actually there are similar issues happening in every country across Europe and lots of countries across the world. And we have to start to ask the question why. And we keep hearing Ukraine coming up, and that is one of the major causes of the economic woes that we're in at the moment. But this level of disruption that we're seeing and disintegration of public services across the country. If I was Vladimir Putin sitting in Moscow, I'd be sitting there behind my big oak desk at the moment with a white cat on my knee, stroking it and smiling, going that the UK is doing everything to itself that I would like to be doing myself.